Boruto episode 65, Father and Child. So this episode was pretty much a perfect 23-minute episode. I think it's oddly enough on kind of on the shorter side because I think the episodes do kind of hit closer to 30 minutes, but it's totally fine with everything that they had in this and how amazing it was. I probably spent like almost an hour just watching this episode because I rewatched the fight, specifically Naruto and Sasuke versus Momoshiki, like the part where they're like the first chunk of that fight. I watched that a bunch. Like I pretty much watched the whole thing like maybe 4 or 5 times. I even went back after I finished the episode to go back to find the clip of the original fight on YouTube just to see the differences. And there are a ton of differences. So honestly, if you've been watching the show and you still haven't seen the movie yet, watch the movie, or at least watch the fight sequences if you don't want to see like the difference in the whole story. But I mentioned before, like there's a total difference in the story. Even the way they technically the reasoning for Boruto's Rasengan is totally different in this than it is compared to the movie because they technically changed. And I mentioned this before because I was like, I don't know where they're going with it or what they're gonna do because they haven't really talked much about Boruto's chakra nature. And so in this, they do officially kind of clarify like his chakra nature is lightning. I was like, okay, that's interesting because in the movie it's wind style, which admittedly makes way more sense as to why it's invisible because it's him making it. It's the force of the Rasengan, but it's literally just physical air. It doesn't it's not chakra anymore. It just dissipates chakra wise and becomes just a forceful ball of air. So it's a little weird when they switch it up and it's like, yeah, it's he subconsciously does it with his lightning nature. I'm like, I guess that kind of makes sense a little bit. It doesn't make nearly as much sense as it turned into literally wind, and it was powerful wind. Like that just made perfect sense. And when it's lightning wise, it's like it just turned invisible, and that was pretty much it. So it wasn't really the exact same concept as it was from the film, where it's like, oh, it's not chakra in any way, shape, or form. They kind of changed it a little to like you can't steal chakra that you can't see. It was like in the movie, it was just it's not chakra. It was basically, and I think they even say it in the movie that it's basically like Naruto's Sage Mode, which is why he can do that because even though he's using the chakra of the Nine Tails, technically all his power is coming from nature. So in that sense, that's how that version of the Rasengan worked. But either way, I was like, slight changes. I think story wise, it's not as cool because it makes more sense with the wind nature, but it didn't matter at all. It was just such a sweet freaking episode. Like this episode is why like people buy the headbands. Like this is why I own this headband. Like stuff like this in this show is like why I have those headbands and why I buy like seasons of the show and stuff like that. And it was such a good freaking fight. Like it was so sweet. The animation, it made we had another week long break, but it was such a good freaking episode. Like it was fun to watch the whole way through. Like legitimately, I was just smiling like through the whole fight sequence. I was just like, this is freaking sweet, and it was so good. Like, and it's different. So you can watch the movie because the movie, like I mentioned, is different. The fight sequences are pretty much 100% different. Like outside of the official ending, where of course Boruto has to use his move to defeat the main villain. Aside from that, there are like bits and pieces where it's exactly the same. Like Kurama, in the armor, basically like dressed like like a samurai using the katana. That's exactly from the movie. And when Boruto and Sasuke kind of have to team up and Sasuke runs into the distraction, that first scene is just like the movie where he's running up the tree, and then right after that is totally different again, where he's fighting against Momoshiki and he's the one switching back and forth. I think it's the Izanagi. I can never freaking remember out of all the hundreds of millions of names, but I believe Izanagi is the one that allows him to switch. And he doesn't do that in the movie. Like in the movie, he just gets knocked to the side, and it's like he's just a distraction for a quick second. And I do like how they do it in the movie too. But in this, it looked cooler visually. It was way sweeter because the way they team up, where he's about to use the Chidori, and it's like, okay, well of course I'm just gonna absorb the chakra. Caught the kunai like it's nothing. Like this is done. Like caught that. That was super slow motion. I'll just absorb this, and then he uses it again and he switches. And I thought that was an even cooler concept because I don't think I've ever seen that before, where he switches places with. I mean, it's still a physical object technically, but it's weird to see it where it's like he's allowed to switch the places of chakra as a physical object because it is. I mean, that's how people get hit by it. So it was such a cool idea where I was like, I don't think I've ever, and maybe they have shown it. I feel like he uses it so sparingly that I don't really remember every single time he does it or what he is and is not allowed to do it with, but it was sweet every freaking time, or I guess technically both times they did it. It was super cool, and they kind of pulled off the old move from the original series where Sasuke, they kind of switch places, but Sasuke was the one basically who was the Shuriken, and so he's the Rasen Shuriken, and once again, it's like, I'll just absorb this, and then he comes out and he's about to stab him, he gets wrapped up, and then he switches places with him, and then, Naruto comes out with the punch. I was like, that was super sweet. The scene where he throws the Shuriken, and it's like a bunch of lightning Shuriken, and he pulls him back with the wires, and Momoshiki has to like dodge a bunch, and is getting too close, and he, tries to blow him away. That was cool. Naruto and Sasuke, the very beginning of it is probably my favorite part, where they're just doing like a bunch of the hand to hand stuff first. That just looks so good, and it's like the way they were teaming up and stuff, and they do that in the movie too. There's a specific scene where they kind of, it's almost like a wrestling move, but because Momoshiki, and that's another big thing that I didn't remember. I thought about it, but I didn't remember 100%. The design is different for Momoshiki from the movie to the anime, and he looks way sweeter in the anime. In the movie, he legitimately just kind of looks red. And in this, the black and white design, I think, looks a million times cooler. They add the element of the hair thing, because I don't believe that that's how that goes either. So I think pretty much all of that is 100% brand new, because the design of the character is new. So everything with him in it, all those action sequences are different than they are from the movie. So you can watch the movie and have like a totally different version, because it was like, well, we totally remade the character, so every scene he's in is a brand new sequence. Like, none of that stuff was done in the film, and they take bits and pieces. Like I said, when he's not there, Kurama versus him is like the lava monster. That's straight from the movie, because it's not brand new. It's like exact, but everything they did with him was super cool. Like him taking out the five Kage super quick. I thought that was an awesome sequence. Especially, I don't know why, but for some reason, my favorite was him versus Gaara for that quick second, and I just love the style of it, where he's shooting through really fast after knocking out Dowdy, and Gaara's trying to capture him, and he's about to hit him like right in the face, and Gaara's able to capture him at the last second, and he holds him, and he's about to hit him with the sand coffin, and then his hair like breaks through everything, and he moves so fast that he moves his hair basically out of the way and just hits him in the stomach, so he's down. And he goes after the Tsuchikage. I believe it's Suchi, I believe is her name. And that was super cool too, because she, kind of hit him with the 1-inch punch a little bit, which he does to Naruto, which I thought was super cool, because he does like Tenketsu or whatever it was. And then when he like takes his hand back and then does like that, that's Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch, and that was like one of the sweetest scenes in the whole episode, especially the animation for that, because he hits him, and it's like a sonic boom that explodes the tree behind him, and then Naruto like shoots through the air super fast. So I love that. But how he took out the Tsuchikage was super cool, and she held her own for like a split second where she dodged, and I was like, oh cool, and then he basically just went, oh, and he just hit her with the elbow and took her down. I was like, all right, well, that's how it's got to be. So that was kind of the way of getting them out of there, so it could be Naruto and Sasuke again, and it was just freaking amazing. Like, the whole thing was super cool. And then they do Planetary Devastation, which I also don't think is in the movie. I did just watch it, but I'm still like so caught up in the middle of how sweet this was. But Planetary Devastation was in there. Izanagi was in there. All the lightning and the Susanoo was definitely in the movie. But yeah, they added some really cool elements to it for sure, and just some of the little stuff that they kind of switched around, like how the way Naruto and Sasuke were teamed up in this compared to the movie, I thought was really cool, because there's a big chunk in the movie where they get split up for a minute, and it's Sasuke taking a bunch of hits and stuff like that, or blocking and stuff. So I thought that was super cool, the way they kind of changed it, where they were pretty much unified the entire way through until they got to like the second part of the fight, where Sasuke kicks Naruto out of the way, and that was their way of kind of keeping that the same as the movie, where he's the one in the situation, basically like dodging the dragons and stuff. And even that was a little different, because the way it happens with Naruto rescuing him was different than it was in the movie. And I was like, well, that's super cool. And it was really funny in the movie, because it totally was like a slow motion. They looked like Naruto was about to kiss Sasuke. So maybe that's why they changed that. Because I was like, when I first saw it after years, I was like, I wonder how many jokes they got, from this scene where it's like slow motion and Naruto's like, the angel coming down to save Sasuke. So maybe that's why they changed how that looked. But definitely a sweet sequence. Loved just all the action of it, was just super freaking cool. So great episode. Obviously, there's not much to say outside of it was super freaking sweet. Love the animation. Actually, one thing that I can certainly say, of course, Naruto and Boruto doing the Rasengan together, And I mentioned this probably for the past month. It's like every one of these cool little emotional bits. I was like, that music is kind of swelling up, like it's getting super close, but it's not the actual song. This was the actual song. It was the original song, like the inspirational, crazy big moment win from all the Naruto series. I think it was even in Shippuden they still use that song, and it was like that was the exact song. Like every other moment, it was kind of leading up to it, and maybe that's why they did that. Where it was like it's super close, but it's not exactly the same. And this was straight up just that inspirational song that they always use for like the grand win. And it was such a great scene, and it was even better. Once again, they had time to redo it, and they did such a great job, like upping what they did from the movie, which was already insanely epic, and somehow they made it like a billion times better than something else that was already like at the time I was like, this is the coolest thing in the universe. And then they made an even sweeter version of it, and even the emotional element at the end was even cooler than what they did in the movie, with the way they did the animation of every different version of Naruto. And they even went back and was like, okay, this is, it was easy to do, like, here's young Naruto with Jiraiya, and then it's when he's in like Shippuden, it's all the different versions, including like, oh, here's him in his jacket, here's him with the jacket open, and here's him without the jacket, and stuff like that. And I was like, that's super cool. Like they went through every specific detail, and they went all the way up to Naruto the Last, and it was him and Hinata, and I was like, that's super sweet, where they went through every single version of him, throughout the years. And even when he's with that specific person, the outfit changes. It's not just, oh, here he is in his old costume, and then the new costume was new costume open, new costume without the jacket. So all of that stuff I thought was like absolutely perfect. And then of course it was just a sweet showdown. Bluish orange Rasengan. We don't see the orange very often. It's super rare they do it like that. But blue orange Rasengan versus the dark red one, which also looks super sweet. And it was just a great way to do it. Like, love the animation. Izanagi switching Chidori with the shuriken and stuff, or the kunai. All of it was super freaking cool. So looking forward to where we're headed. The eye comes back. So excuse me. I guess that was the other big element. The eye came back, and they have a little conversation. Between Boruto and Momoshiki, and then they have like the quick glance of Sasuke, and that's because he saw that conversation. So we'll see how that ends up playing out, and what the heck that means. And we find out that Boruto did inherit something from that clan, but it's also bad. So we'll get to see how that ends up playing out. If you read the manga, you might know, you might not know. I've heard that they still haven't really done a lot. Like, even the person that's in the first episode, that person still has not shown up in the manga, because they don't know where to put the character in. They just had like a cool action scene, and now they'll have to somehow make up a story to, yep, whole village is destroyed, Naruto may or may not be dead. That's a big theory, but that main villain from that first episode and the first chapter of the manga still is not in the manga. From what I know, at least, that person still has not actually been put into the story. So we'll see where things are headed as far as the anime, but I'm excited. We are officially done with the recap and the build up to the movie. We are officially going into the rest of the manga stuff. They'll probably add some new stuff in there. I think the main thing would be Metal, Denki, and Iwabe. I still don't believe, and I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure that Iwabe and Denki still are not within the manga. I have not read it, but they run in there, during this part of the manga. So don't know how the manga plays out differently than the actual series, but still looking forward to where we're headed. Definitely love this episode. Of course, great action, great animation, great emotional moment, at the end with the animation there as well. They even had Neji. That was my thing. I know everybody loved Jiraiya, but for me it was like, I had my time to mourn him, and then Neji was just like, I didn't think they'd put that in there. Like, Neji even got a moment, so I was like, super cool. But love this episode, of course. Would love to know what you guys thought about the action, the differences between the movie. Go and see the movie now that, we've gone through this, or at least, in the action sequence, so you get 2 cool action sequences. Just want to know what you guys thought about this episode, the final wrap-up in general of the Boruto movie arc, and of course, what you guys are looking forward to, what you hope to see going forward with the anime now. So in general, please put your comments down in the comment section below, and of course, thanks for watching.